Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Write Books, a weekly live stream writing show where writers can come together for community advice and, most importantly, a dedicated time for you to work on your novel or other book or creative writing project. I'm Micah Crowdy. I'm the head of writing at Butterdocs, which is the perfect app for writing your novel. It's what I'm using to write my novel. And there is a link in the description below if you want to check it out. And I think there's a coupon code there as well. I want to welcome everyone joining me live or on the replay. If you're watching me live, please get in the chat and let me know, where are you? What kind of book are you writing? And why are antagonists important in stories? So these are our questions we like, to use to get started, to get the brains whirring, especially if you're on the West Coast like I am, and it's still Monday morning, even though it's 10 a.m. It's not too early, but I feel like Mondays mornings on Mondays last much longer than in the rest of the week because your brain's still adjusting. You have weekend morning brain. So these questions are to help us just get going a little bit. One, I want to know, where are you in the country or in the world? I want to know what kind of book you're writing. And then we throw in this writer question just to get us going a little bit. And today we're going to be talking about antagonists. So I want to know what you think about, why are antagonists important in stories? This is a community. It's not just me. It's all of us here together. So I want to get your insights on why you think antagonists are important in stories. So get in the chat. Let me know where you are, what kind of book you're writing, and why are antagonists important in stories. Yeah. So also please subscribe, turn on notifications, all that kind of good YouTube stuff if you like. I'm going to answer these questions myself. I am in Los Angeles. It's every day I want to say sunny Los Angeles, but it hasn't been sunny recently, except for last weekend or just over the weekend. It was hit 90s on Saturday. It was really hot and sweating. And so we're all right, summer has arrived. And then now it's cold and gray again today. So we're all over the place here in Los Angeles. People say LA doesn't have weather, but we do. It's just the temperature drops aren't quite maybe as immense as in other places. So I'm in Los Angeles. What kind of book am I writing? I'm writing a novel. It's about three estranged best friends who return home to their small town for their 20th high school reunion to deal with an explosive secret from their past that's in danger of being revealed. And that's kind of how I've been describing it as a while. But through these sprints recently, I've sort of been realizing, and it's kind of maybe prompting today's discussion, that my protagonists actually might be my antagonists, which is kind of fun. So those three best friends, that they were sort of originally, when I was thinking of the story, they were going to be the focus of the novel. It was their POV. And I think they're still going to be a part of it, but actually it's going to be someone related to the thing they did in the past, sort of a victim's relative who's the hero of the story, the protagonist. So it's sort of they were the protagonists, then I created this antagonist for them. And then I realized, wait, I think it's actually this antagonist story. They're the protagonist. So I don't know. It's evolving, which I think is fine in your novel. You should be flexible, particularly when you're in the development stage, about who your characters are, what's the POV. I'm going to chat about antagonists in just a minute. But what are we going to do today? We're going to do 3 25-minute writing sprints. And during those writing sprints, you can either do your own thing. Sometimes you just want to hear the music and just lock in and do whatever you whatever you need to work on your writing. But I'm also going to have writing prompts today that are on the topic of antagonists. So if you want to do those, if you want to follow along, help develop the antagonists and use the antagonists to kind of sharpen some things in your story, you can do those. So we'll do 3 25-minute writing sprints. And if you're new, basically, I play some music, put a big timer up on the screen. I shrink over to the side and we just write for 25 minutes. And, just a great dedicated focused time to go into your novel. And then of course, during the second break, I'm going to show you what we've sort of been doing is the slice of nature of the week. And recently there's a hummingbird nest right outside my office, which has been really cool. And my wife and I have been keeping tabs on it and trying to keep squirrels away from it. And we've become very invested in this and got some exciting hummingbird updates to share. So that will be later in the show after the second break. That's a little tease for you guys. Some exciting hummingbird updates are coming your way. Love to see people in the chat. Teji from San Jose writing a YA Portal fantasy. I thought that's a Patrol at first, but Portal, that's awesome. Neffy in Seaside, returning from your travels to Arkansas, writing a tribal fantasy. Antagonists bring on the needed tension in a story, definitely. One of the great characters of Antagonists is bringing in tension. Barbara from New Hampshire, writing a multi-POV magical realism novel. Antagonists help the protagonist evolve and keep the contrast conflict fresh. Yeah, you're kind of, I think, tapping into the two important things that I'll talk about in just a second there, Barbara. I love that. James in Jersey doing a rewrite of a dark fantasy comic book. Antagonists are the characters that make the protagonist realize what they have to change in order to triumph. I love that. I love this focus on the character growth that antagonists force the protagonist to go through. I think sometimes people overly focus on the antagonist being, a plot thing, right? They're causing problems. But as a couple people like James and Barbara have noted here, they are massive for the development of your protagonist over the story. Doodling with Dr. Club and stuff. Fantastic. Your first time. So glad that you're here. This is going to be really fun. We're going to do writing sprints. And if you're working on a novel or some other creative project, this is great. And like I mentioned earlier, the prompts for the writing sprints that I have are optional. So if you want to follow those along, you can, or you can just do your own thing. And of course, Barbara is excited for the hummingbirds, which really is what we're all here for, is to like find out how the hummingbirds are. And like, guys, I've become so invested in these hummingbirds. Like if something bad things happen to these hummingbirds, I'm going to be crushed. Deborah from New York. Welcome, Deborah. Work on historical novels set in the early 20th century. Fantastic. All right. So this is going to be great. I don't know. We're going to start the week off great today, guys. So why are antagonists important? I think we all know kind of what antagonists are, but just to say it kind of, because what I'm working with here, right? The antagonist is a character that gets in the way of your protagonist's goal, providing conflicts between the protagonist and the antagonist as they have opposing motivations. So basically your protagonist wants something and the antagonist wants something that are in conflict. And it's not necessarily that they want the same thing. It's just that like they both can't get it. So sometimes it could be literally there's one thing and they both want it. Or it's like they could kind of want opposite things. So it's basically they can't both be happy. It's kind of mutually exclusive. For one to get it, the other has to lose. And it's important to notice or to note that an antagonist is not necessarily a villain. Oftentimes the two get conflated. And while all villains are antagonists, not all antagonists are villains, which is just to say that you can be an antagonist, but not be a bad guy, not be a villain, not be evil, right? I like to use the example, like think about, if your hero is like, so you're writing a YA novel or something, and it's the teenager and they want to go to a party. That's their goal. They want to go to this party. And their parents don't want them to go, right? They're saying no. They have opposing motivations. Their goals are in conflict. The parents aren't evil. They're not villains. I mean, maybe like the teenager might think that they're villains, but like from the reader's perspective, it's like the parents are just trying to like protect their kid, right? So the parents are antagonists in this scenario, but they're not evil. So it's just remember that antagonists aren't evil. And oftentimes antagonists think they're the hero, right? There's that old canard, everyone's the hero of their own story. And that is really, relevant, I think, even though it is a cliche a bit, but like it's a good one. And another thing to keep in mind is that there can be non-character elements in your story that are like antagonistic forces, things that are causing conflict and forcing your character to grow, like the setting, societal roles, pressures, other things that aren't necessarily like a person or character. And so antagonists have two big roles in my mind, and we've kind of already touched on them. But like on the story level, right, the opposition of the antagonist to the protagonist creates conflict, and that's where stories come from. We love conflict, and these obstacles increase the drama, so that you're getting like story benefits from the antagonist. But then also, as we've talked about here, on the character level, the opposition of the antagonist is what's forcing the protagonist to change, to develop, right? And this can be for better or for worse, but the antagonist making things harder. So for the protagonist to get what they want, they're being pushed, right? And oftentimes to uncomfortable places. Like, people don't want to grow. No one wants to grow. We're all like, or not. Maybe that's I'm telling on myself a little bit there. But like, oftentimes, like, people are very comfortable in their worlds, right? And normally your protagonist would just stay there, but the antagonist sort of forces them to move forward. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at today here. This is kind of interesting. Nephew was saying, an antagonist is a muscle group producing the opposite action of the main muscle you are using, like triceps are to biceps. That's cool. I went to the gym yesterday and I was evidently doing some writing when I was working on my my triceps and biceps. That's nice to know that I'm working out my mind as well as we can work out our bodies. Welcome to some other people. Beth from Maine, formerly LA, ghostwriter, 29 fiction books. Oh, wow. Only one novel. The novel was eons ago. I'm here to listen, to sharpen my fiction skills. Beth, fantastic. So glad you're here. I hope you get a little bit of spark of that fiction spark back. Justin chiming in here. I think antagonists can also really set the level for the world of protagonists. What is valued? What are their values? How do their motives and tactics differ? What does the world reflect back? Oh, that's really cool. I like that, Justin. They're sort of reflecting kind of, a little bit of like the status quo of the society and the highlighting that difference between the protagonist and the antagonist. I think it also is interesting because it can be a yardstick in some sense, because at the start of the story, there may be very stark differences between, their values, motives, and tactics versus the end of the story, that like the difference between them might have changed. That's cool. I like that, Justin. Awesome. All right. I think we are going to get in the sprints. You know what? I'm actually going to just go through the sprints first. That's what I need to do. All right. So we have 3 writing sprints today, right? We're going to do 3 25-minute writing sprints. And so these are the prompts. So sprint 1, and again, these are optional if you want to just work on your word count or brains, whatever you want to do. But this is what I'll be doing. Sprint 1. What does your protagonist want? Which character provides the biggest obstacle keeping your protagonist from their goal? That's your antagonist. What does your antagonist want that puts them in conflict with the protagonist, and why do they believe they're right? Is the antagonist right in some way? So this is kind of basic, identifying your antagonist, identifying kind of like what makes them the antagonist, what their role is in the story. I think that's pretty clear, and you might know that. But what I always want to highlight here is, what do they want? That's just making that clear is very helpful. What do they want that puts them in conflict? And then, why do they believe they're right? And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, how everyone thinks they're the hero of their own story. So they don't, even if they are bad or evil, they probably don't think they are, So why do they believe they're right? And on a deeper level, you can go, are they right? Because I feel like, and this might be even kind of what Justin was touching on a little bit, the antagonists are saying something about society, right? And the best antagonists, I think, are right at some level. Maybe not completely right, but one of the reasons that they're forcing your protagonist to change is that the protagonist has to recognize that the antagonist is right in some way, and that the protagonist's view of the world has been flawed. So that's sprint 1. Identifying the antagonist and kind of thinking about what puts them in conflict with the protagonist. Why do they believe they're right? And are they right? Sprint 2. So that's kind of more on the antagonist, who they are. Sprint 2 is what we've been talking about, character change here. How do the actions of the antagonist force your protagonist to change as they attempt to overcome the antagonist's opposition? So how does the antagonist forcing the protagonist to grow, to change, to develop? What new attributes or sides of your protagonist are revealed by this conflict, right? So this is what we've been talking about. It's the character growth that the opposition of the antagonist is forcing your protagonist to go through. So that's going to be the second sprint. And then sprint 3 is going to be kind of the non-character things in your story. So what other antagonistic forces are creating obstacles for your protagonist? These can be the setting, nature, social norms, technology/infrastructure, fate, the supernatural, kind of whatever. how are these obstacles shaping your protagonist? So just like in Sprint 2, we're kind of talking about how the character antagonist is forcing your protagonist to change. How is the world? How are the kind of non-human or non-character forces? Because I want to say human, but I realize like some of you are writing like sci-fi and fantasy novels, so the antagonist might not be a human. They could be a troll or a alien or something, or a vampire. So I'm saying character instead of human. But if I say human or person, I mean character, and it can be a non or a robot or something like that. But then, so Sprint 3, it's similar. It's like how are these non-character forces shaping your protagonist? I always love picturing like a mountain climber going up a mountain in a blizzard, and like, what does that push them to? Or the Donner Party, right? Think about like the Donner Party trying to go over the Rockies through the Donner Pass, and the antagonistic forces of the mountain, of the storm, of the snow, and like pushing them to, cannibalism. Although I think I've heard that like that might have been exaggerated. It might be a little bit of an urban legend, but we'll just take it at face value. But that's a perfect example of like how an antagonistic force, the weather, the geography, is pushing these people to reveal parts of themselves or find or develop things that like they never would have thought they would do. And then we have a bonus prompt. So we're doing 3 sprints. And if you finish one of these earlier, or maybe it's like you've already figured out some of this stuff and you don't want to do another prompt that you can do optionally, is in what ways is your protagonist their own antagonist, aka their own worst enemy? How are they holding themselves back or causing problems for themselves? So that's a bonus prompt that you can do if you finish one of these other ones or in place of one of the other ones. And these sprints in full are listed in the description of the YouTube video below you, but they're also, if you're a Butterdocs user, there's a link in the description below to add them as a template to your account. And once you do that, when you add them as a template on that link, you can just then go to new note from template, and it'll be antagonist writing prompts. And then you click on that and it'll create a note with those prompts in there. So you can either copy paste from the video description below, or you can upload, add this as a template. And the great thing though about adding this as a template, which is one of the really cool things about templates in Butterdocs, is then you can use that template like over and over in different books and different documents or whatever. So, I've been doing these templates from Let's Write Books, and now I've got them here kind of constant in my account. So if I do another project, I can use them again. So yeah, that is what we are going to be doing. Nephew's antagonist is right, but it involves compromise. Yeah, they're both right? Maybe they're both right, but they're both wrong. I think that's cool. All right, so I think that's enough preamble. That's enough epilogue. Prologue. Sorry. That's enough prologue. Let's get into the writing. So we're going to do our first writing sprint. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to put the timer up on the screen and mute myself. And then we'll check back in 25 minutes. We'll talk about how that went. What did we learn? And then, we'll see how we're doing and do some announcements. And then, later I'm going to show the hummingbird update, which will be really fun. So 25 minutes on the clock. First sprint ready to go. And again, if you want more details on this, it's in the template, or it's pasted in the description of the YouTube video below. But 25 minutes on the clock. Let's do it. Happy writing, everybody. All right, and that brings us to the end of the first writing sprint. The first 25-minute writing sprint of Let's Write Books on this beautiful Monday morning, because I think maybe the sun is starting to peek out, or at least I can see like a bit of the sky through the clouds. Anyways, this is Let's Write Books, brought to you by Butterdocs, the app for writing your novel. It's what I'm using, and you can check out the link in the description below. How'd that first writing sprint go for y'all? Are the muses here with us? Were you struggling with the words flowing, with the ideas flowing? Did you learn anything about your antagonists, about their motivations? Did you find any clarification sort of between what they want and what your protagonist wants? Was there any aligning maybe that you had to do there? Get in the chat and let me know. For me, there was some good stuff in that sprint. That was a really nice sprint. I had some clarifications kind of on who these characters are and in putting their motivations more in direct opposition with each other, even if that meant changing my conception of some of my characters in terms of like their personality or their morality or anything. It was just kind of like changing it a little bit to kind of line it up more so that they're in conflict. Another thing that came up for me during that sprint was kind of this idea of like story momentum. Because, oftentimes you have characters who want something to change, and then you have characters who don't want anything to change, right? You want characters who are trying to change the status quo and characters who are trying to maintain the status quo. And so I think that's another way of kind of thinking of this antagonist protagonist relationship sort of is like who's trying maybe to maintain the status quo, and that's what they want. It's like a negative goal, not negative in like evil sense, but negative in the sense of like a lack of momentum. So you have one character or a group of characters who wants the status quo to remain the same, and another group of characters who want it to change. And really, like, either sides of those could be the antagonist or the protagonist, but it's just sort of about like figuring out how to balance those. So that was pretty cool. And then another thing always kind of came up in this is the idea, because I have multiple antagonists, kind of one primary, but then also some secondary ones. And I was kind of thinking, like, what can I do with each of them? What are the roles of each of them? If there's this one primary one, what are the other ones doing? And one of them I kind of realized is like on the fence a little bit, which I think could be potentially interesting in the sense that he's a potential ally for the protagonist. Like he could turn on the antagonist, and like really that can add another boost of story, and he can almost become an antagonist for the antagonist, forcing them to go further. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was really rich. A lot of fun stuff in there for me. I also want to mention on this break, a quick announcement. We are not doing Let's Write Books. I'm on vacation next week on the 19th. But on the 26th, we're having a special guest here, Angie Chapman, writer, teacher, storyteller. And I was kind of talking about this as memoir. It's kind of memoir, personal, creative nonfiction, personal essays. If you're in any of those things, or also how some of those, then you should join for this also, but also kind of how those tools can help your fiction writing. You should join for this. But we're doing an event, The Personal in the Past, Writing True Stories with Angie Chapman. So it's going to be like when I've had a guest here in the past, I'll kind of, in the first bit, I'll do an interview with her. I'll ask her about these techniques, about writing true stories, and about how those skills can be applied to other aspects of writing, like fiction writing. And you can ask your questions in the chat. And then after that, we'll do some writing sprints, which is really cool because I love doing these with the guests where you like learn something, you have these ideas, and then in the writing sprints right after, you just have like an immediate opportunity to implement maybe something that you just learned or something that you thought of that the conversation sparked, and you're like, oh, I want to play with that. So you can RSVP for that. There's a link in the description below. And again, this is May 26th. Next week on the 19th, I'm on vacation. On the 26th, back with a special guest. So hopefully you will join for that. Morning Monaro who joined, Barbara had fits and starts. Anyone else want to let me know how that writing sprint went for them? Get in the chat and let me know. Or if maybe you weren't doing the antagonist sprint, if you were just doing your own writing, just let me know how the writing went today. What are you dealing with? What are you struggling with? Is it going well or is it hard today? Sometimes it can be difficult to get into it, especially in that first writing sprint. where your brain maybe has, was somewhere else. It was like on all the other things that are going on in your life, and you're just suddenly trying to like write and be like, oh my gosh, this is tough. So if it was tough, it was easy. If you had any insights, get in the chat and let me know. One other announcement very quickly: on Wednesday, this Wednesday, we're doing Let's Write Scripts. So this is Let's Write Books, the novel writing show. And on Wednesday afternoons, I host Let's Write Scripts, which is the screenwriting show, because we have two apps: Butterdocs, which is for writing novels and research papers and other long form prose projects, and Arc Studio, which is for writing screenplays. So if you write scripts, you can join us Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. There's a link below. You can also just work on your novel there too. It's another just creative gathering. It's very similar in format, except the sprints are more free form. So you can RSVP for that and show up and work on your novel or a script or whatever you want at Let's Write Scripts. And really, we're pretty open. It's just another kind of great creative gathering for writing, but mostly talking about screenwriting, just so you know, going into that. Neffy, my main characters want the same thing. The antagonist knows how to procure that, and she's right, as she knows stuff no one else does, but involves going against the protagonist's value system. That's interesting. And then the protagonist has to make those sort of value choices, right? As to like, is going against their value system worth the thing that they need, and does their opinion of that change over time? I like that. Barbara, I use the antagonist prompt helpful, as I too realized that my multiple PIVs could be both protagonist and antagonist. A puzzle for me to figure out. Yeah, you can almost think that as like a vector chart, or just like arrows, kind of, where like you have characters kind of, and you just kind of have like the arrows pointed at each other to see like, if you have like multiple characters, like how do they interact? How does this relationship interact? How does this relationship? How does this, and you can kind of see the tension there. And you can maybe, if you kind of graph it that way, or like sketch it out, like doodle with like a pen, you can sort of figure out maybe where the conflicts are lacking, where there's like, okay, these characters are actually not in conflict with each other or with anyone else, or, you can see that. So it'd be kind of fun. I also like switching it out sometimes and doing stuff by hand. So yeah, Barbara, that's a suggestion. Minaru, I'll trade weather with you. It's overly hot, 93 here. Yeah, that was here on Saturday. It was like in mid 90s. The app said 99, but I don't think it actually got that hot here. I think it was like 91, 92, 93. But yeah. All right, cool. So let's keep moving. The first writing sprint. Now we're going to move into the second writing sprint, which again is how the actions of the antagonist force your protagonist to change as they attempt to overcome the antagonist's opposition. What new attributes or sides of your protagonist are revealed by this conflict? So this sprint is really about how the antagonist, what they're doing, what they want, is pushing up against the protagonist and forcing them to change. So we're gonna put 25 minutes back on the clock, play some music, play the timer. We're gonna write. We come back, we're gonna do the hummingbird update. We're gonna check in. It's gonna be great. So 25 minutes on the clock. We get the music going here, and I'll catch you guys on the other side. Sorry about that. That was a good sprint. I was just like deep in it. How long ago did the sprint end? If anyone knows, let me know because I have no idea. It was like a really good writing sprint for me, so I was just like locked in. Actually, just give me 1 second. I need to finish this thought. But let me know how it went for you in the chat as I finish this thought. Let me know. Yeah, 1 second. All right, cool. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, that sprint went great for me. I want to know how it went for you. Get in the chat. Let me know. Did you learn about your antagonist, your protagonist? Did you find some way for the antagonist to force your protagonist to change if you're doing the sprints? If not, just how did it go? Did you already pick up in the second sprint? Did it go is it a little harder? Let me know. Teji, Neffy, Barbara, James, Doodlin, everyone in the chat. Beth, Justin, if you guys are around, get in the chat. Let me know. I want to know how your writing's going today. Welcome to is it Unhai? Let me know. I can't. Is that how you pronounce it? Welcome. So glad you're here. Glad you can make it. Yes. So that was the second writing sprint of 3. If you've just joined, we're talking about antagonists today. How they can provide conflict and drama in your story, but also how they force your protagonist to change. And that's really what that last sprint was about how the antagonist forces your protagonist to change. And that was really cool for me. I mean, the thing that was great is that like I just thought of a twist, which is interesting because I wasn't trying to think of plot twists. I was just thinking of character forces that led to this character relationship, which then to a twist that is like going to be heartbreaking, I hope. So that's pretty great. That was a great sprint for me. So I loved that one. That's why I was like smiling during that sprint and locked in at the end and didn't realize that the squirrels outside are going nuts. Didn't realize that the timer had ended. Glad to see I was into it. Yeah, no, I feel like you can just tell on my face if like I'm actually like having a good sprint or not. Barbara is much better. Words and ideas flowing. Deborah, with sprint 2, I began to see another level of complexity in my protagonist that is in the pages I've written, but I had not yet identified another level. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. It makes me so happy, Deborah. I'm finding stuff like that today as well, where there's just like, oh, wait, there's something more here. Fantastic. James is going pretty good. Rewrote a page and a bit more focused on the politics and the universe of my story. Awesome. And Nisi, great. Getting started with the creative juices are flowing. Nisi, I feel like you told me that like months ago. But then like I started to doubt myself and was like, wait, but should I say the first name? So appreciate that. Thank you. Getting started, the creative juices are flowing. So glad. Teji, been going pretty well. I wrote a chapter yesterday and realized my character's reactions were wildly out of character. So I'm going to figure out how he would actually react. Cool. Awesome. So glad to hear that. All right. We are going to do one more sprint, but before that, we are going to catch up on the hummingbirds. Which if you are new and you're like, wait, what does this have to do with writing? I mean, like, it's just about the natural splendor of the world and finding inspiration everywhere. And also just me being really excited that there's a hummingbird nest in my backyard. So yeah, here, without further ado, here is the hummingbird. All right, so we're going to start out far, and then you can see it in the middle there. And we're going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, and what do we have there? Oh, yes. Little hummingbird chicks. Oh, flapping their little wings. Yes. Oh, that's so cute. We got 2 little chicks, and that one is just going. So I've been worried about these chicks, like whether they were in there or not. And then like the other day, I just noticed like a little stick. It looked like it was poking out. And so I was just kind of staring at it. And it like, just like, it was kind of like this. And then just like opened it. I'm like, oh, that's a little beak. So yeah, we got these little babies that are like flitting and flapping about. And like I said, we are so like emotionally invested in these hummingbird chicks that like if the squirrels get too close, we're like letting the dogs out to scare them away. Anyways, but here you go. And this is just a photo that I managed to take of the 2 little hummingbird chicks curled up in their nest. I was like, Mama Bird was gone, and I just sort of like tried to hold my phone just kind of like above and just like take quick photos and get out of there before disturbing them. And this is so cool, like seeing the inside of the nest like that, because I just thought it was sticks and stuff, but you can see the like white. So I think one thing I learned is like spider silk, like spider webs, is a big ingredient in these nests. So you can see it's like so soft and like actually like really nice and cozy in there for the for the hummingbirds. I like Deborah's idea. Let's all write a hummingbird in our novel. It's great. That can be like the common thread. I know the little wings are so great. Last week PBS aired The Hummingbirds of Hollywood. There's an expert right there. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, that's good to know. Nature is amazing, Barbara. We've had some bad luck with birds, Beth. Sorry. So that's nice to know that there's an expert right in LA if I need her in case like things go wrong. Anyways, but like, yes, they are the freeloaders because they're in our backyard, but they're not paying rent. Although I decided that they were paying in adorability and splendor and the wonder of nature. So I decided that was their contribution to our rent. Anyways, so that is the hummingbird update. There was actually like another nature thing. There are like 2 other nature things that happened in my neighborhood this week that I was gonna do, but then we actually like started noticing the chicks. So it's like, all right, we're gonna push those other things later, and do the hummingbirds. So there we go. And back to writing. Nephew was saying my antagonist educates the main character who's naive and he gets shocked by the truth so far. Fun. All right, so we're doing well here. We are now going to do the final writing sprint. So sprint 3 is about what other antagonistic forces are creating obstacles for your protagonist. So non-characters, so like the setting, nature, social norms, technology, infrastructure, fate of the supernatural, hummingbirds, perhaps. And then remember, we also have the bonus prompt, which is in what ways is your protagonist their own antagonist, aka their own worst enemy? How are they holding themselves back or causing problems for themselves? So you can do that prompt in said. Yeah, back to hummingbirds. It was really cool. Literally, there's like, so when I first noticed the hummingbird, it was, sorry to get back to hummingbirds if you're just like here to write, but it's pretty cool. It's that wall, like in that video here, wait, you don't actually see the wall. But anyways, this is like literally right outside my office, and I turned the corner, and like I was scaring the hummingbird when she was like building the nest. So I actually like put a chair out there just to remind myself to like not walk that way. No, if it was a woodpecker, I would have a very different relationship with that bird. If it was right outside my office, I can tell you that, Deborah, we would not be having this wonderful conversation about how magnificent nature is. It would be another side of me picturing that's an antagonistic force right there that would bring out the worst in me as a character. Or if it was a beehive, that would also be yeah. Nephew, what are you doing getting that close to a beehive? Don't do that. Keep a safe distance. All right. So anyways, let's finish this up. We're going to do one more sprint. I think we're going to do a 20-minute sprint on this one because with the chat and the hummingbird stuff, we're a little over time here. We don't have to choose. We can be here for both, Bernardo. We can be here for the hummingbirds and the writing. All right. So third writing sprint, again, antagonistic forces, or you can do that bonus prompt. And again, there's more details in the description for those below. You can also load the character note templates into your Butterdocs account and use them over and over again, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm going to play some music here. We're going to do our final writing sprint. Thank you all for being here. This has been wonderful. Hope to see you in 2 weeks. Again, as a reminder, there's no Let's Write Books next week. I'm on vacation, but on the 26th, we're going to have a special guest telling true stories about like memoir and personal and creative nonfiction and personal essays. And again, on Wednesday, if you want to be there in 2 days, we're doing Let's Write Scripts. So, and if you have to leave during this last sprint, no worries. Say farewell in the chat. Let me know how it went. And if you stick around, we'll say our final goodbyes. So here we go. Let's focus and lock in and finish out strong. All right, that takes us to the end of this flow. I love that, Sosa, of a writing sprint. I want to thank you all for joining me today. This has been a really fantastic writing session. Love the energy. I hope you all enjoyed it at least half as much as I did. I'm the host. It's supposed to be for your benefit. Sometimes I feel guilty when I'm having great writing. So I'm like, other people should be having great writing. So I hope you were. If you were new, I hope you come back. Again, we have a special guest next week. It's be fantastic. You can RSVP for that in the link. Sorry, special guest in 2 weeks. Off next week, on vacation next week on the 19th, back on the 26th, and then we'll be regularly on Mondays from then on. And again, you can also join at Let's Write Scripts on this Wednesday. And there are links below to do that. And if you want to check out Butterdocs, the writing app that I'm using and a lot of us are using here, there's a link for that below. So thank you all for being here. It's Monday. It's a good way to start the week. I hope you have fantastic rests of the week. Please be kind to yourselves. And as always, happy writing. All right. I'll see you all soon.